Coming home in the evening, each day much on my mind. Fast.
Hi there, peace unto you. My name is Rashidah Alli and welcome to Rashidah TV, a place to be to gain practical tools on how to create tranquility in your heart. Now welcome to another episode of Rashidah TV, and in today's episode we're in for a special treat. I've got a special guest with us today, and my guest today is Cordelia Gaffar. Cordelia Gaffar is an international best-selling published author, a speaker, a certified sports nutritionist. She's the hostess of the Replenish Me show on the Progressive Radio Network, which has also been featured on International Radio 786 in Cape Town, South Africa. She's a former corporate accountant and the founder of Workouts Around My Day, and she's also a mom of 6. She helps women to heal by building a system of self-nurturing nourishing with wholesome food, energizing with movement, and reframing her perspective with sweet talk, ultimately eliminating the cause of her health conditions and detox her body. She has a mission to hone that superpower, and she helps women to do the same. She's been a recent speaker in the Me First Ramadan Summit. She's also spoken at the Parent Empowerment Summit, and in July she's going to be speaking at the CEO Conference on Life, Love and Business. So yeah, Cordelia, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm like super excited to have you. Thank you. And I think we met online through Instagram, and then we connected on Facebook, and I've been watching your videos and listening to your talks, and I thought really need to catch up with this lady. Like, she's got so much gems to give others. So there you are. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
And, yeah.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was really surprised but excited when you reached out to me. So I've been admiring your content for months, definitely. So
thank you. Thank you. Now, I've been reading about your story, and it was amazing to see how you were able to heal yourself, by nurturing yourself, eating wholesome food, energizing with movement, and having that sweet talk, for people to eliminate the reason why they have this, health conditions. And I really found that interesting. Like, I really thought these 3 combinations are they're very, very solid things that people need to do in order to regain their health. So if you tell our viewers, why did you start this? What's it all about? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I started because I guess it's been almost 16 years ago. I had postpartum depression, which really, in retrospect, surfaced because I had my first daughter and then 2 miscarriages, which I didn't address it, right? I didn't even give myself the chance to grieve. I just was more focused on having that second baby, marking off that checklist for what others look for, right, as accomplishments for me. And but in my journey to heal my body, because again, looking outward for an answer, I went to my doctor and I said, I have this lovely child, I can't connect with him, I'm grossly overweight, which I've never been, and I feel really out of sorts. And she wanted to give me an antidepressant. And I was like, I didn't tell her, but I felt very unheard. I felt ignored. And I knew that, first of all, I'm nursing and I don't care how low the dosage is, it gets to the child, through the milk. So I wanted to do something where I would nourish my body with wholesome food, and that would, by extension, nourish my baby. And through that, I actually remembered how much I loved cooking and creating that because when I was growing up, my mom wasn't well. And I talk about this in my actual talk on self-nurturing, and whenever she came home from the hospital, I always took a lot of effort to make healing food for her. So I decided to do that for myself. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting though. So you decided not to take the antidepressants, and then you decided to heal yourself, eating wholesome foods. That's really nice. But why did you decide not to take the antidepressants? Like, not everyone would have that courage to say, no, I don't want to do that. Like, what gave you that courage?
Right. So fortunately, both my parents had passed before I even got married. And my father actually was the healthier one. He was 61 when I was born, and walked 20 miles a day, taught me to play tennis when he was in his 70s. But when he was like 83, he they found gallstones. And that was back in the day when they couldn't laser treat it. So they actually had to give him surgery. They gave him prescriptions, to alleviate pain and different things after the surgery. And the complications from those prescription medicines actually is what caused him to die, because he was otherwise healthy. So that is really where that came from. From the time he died, I was studying herbal medicine and seeing what I could use, even like for the smallest problem with myself. Yeah.
Great. A lot of people now, they're, moving towards herbal medicine and, healthy living, rather than just taking the easy option. Because obviously when you take tablets, then it's just like, oh yeah, I feel better. But then, like you said, the side effects are there. But then if you go through the natural way, it might not be immediately, but then, with time you do get the results. Wow. So yeah, that's really interesting. Now, obviously during that process, how did you manage that? Because you said you had only one child then when you had that, yeah. But obviously, how did you manage your situation with your spouse? Like when you knew that you had that, you had that depression.
Right. So this is where the other two parts of what I do come in handy.
Okay.
So the other side of that is in my studies, although, like I said, I had walked with my dad most mornings growing up and everything, that was what I considered exercise. But in my studies for improving my mental health, I found that I had to exercise.
Okay.
So I had started doing like Pilates, Tai Chi, and weights. And interestingly enough, a lot of women will not lift weights. I've been lifting weights for 16 years and I still don't have I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. So I'm just telling you, it works, but it works really well for depression. Actually, you can do a very short workout and it gets those endorphins going and it actually changes the stress response. So you can manage your stress a lot better. And then the other part of that is even in a moment, I would reframe what I was thinking, right?
Okay.
But between the eating the right food and the exercise, it made it easier for me to say, oh, woe is me, my life is, crap. And then I'd say, wait, that's not true. I am, blessed to have these two healthy children, and I live in this house, and I'm able to buy the food that is nourishing me and making me feel better. And I have access to internet to find out about all these exercises that are also making me feel better. So that is the reframe, right? And so how that relates to dealing with my spouse is, when he would be like, okay, did you cook dinner yet? And anyone that's had a baby and has a 2-year-old knows that everything's delayed, right?
Oh yes.
So it's okay, you feeling better now? Can I have some food? And I could just look up and say, I'm almost done nursing and I'll be right there, right? And I already have in my mind what I need to eat. And so in each moment, I would just be there. Instead of, again, it's a reframe of perspective. Instead of worrying about him making demands on me, I would reframe it in my mind as a reminder, oh, you're nursing, which means you need to eat now. you need to eat more regularly, you need to eat well, right? So it wasn't, the cooking wasn't for him. I made it for me and the baby.
Oh my God, I love that. Like, seriously, that is beautiful. That is so good. Oh my, like, oh, I really love that actually. So reframing and not even like doing it for that person. So you're kind of saying, okay, it's like kind of maybe someone else is helping you to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just like he's reminding you to cook for yourself. So like putting it back, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know, like I can actually understand from what you're saying that to be in that frame of mind, you have to have gone through the process, like the two processes, like, you know, eat well and then exercise. So that would actually make you feel good. And then you can start thinking good. Is that right?
That's it.
Good. So eat well, exercise, and then think good. Smashing. Great. No, and reframing, that's really good. Yeah, I love the reframing bit. So yeah. So but you know, sometimes as women, sometimes we want to feel like that luxury and feel, you know, looked after. Like as much as I know you're trying, you're gonna, you know, try and make reframe, trying to do the exercises, eat well. But do you not ever feel like sometimes you want the man to actually do something for you? Okay, you know what? Sit down and I'll do maybe the cooking or I will look after the kids. Do you ever feel that way or do you ever ask for that actually? Because there's a difference between sometimes you feel like that, but then sometimes you can't even ask. But have you ever had that experience before?
Oh, 100%. I've been married a long time.
How did you tackle that?
So like, I mean, back then I would do something a little bit different. You know, I would be like, look, you know, there's some leftovers. I'm really tired. Is it possible that you could just, you know, whip something up? You know, you're a much better cook than I am, you know? And then he would be like, oh, you know what? I did actually have a taste for something that I wasn't good at making because my husband's from Bangladesh and I wasn't really good at that kind of cooking yet. So now I will say, you know, I mean, all these years later, I'm all about speaking my truth, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll just say, look, I've got an event or a workshop that I'm going to do. And, you know, we have other people that can cook in the house. So I'm going to leave and you guys are going to work it out. So yeah, my son, he actually cooks quite well. Both my sons do. And that was the extension of, you know, as they were growing up, they didn't like this, they didn't like that, texture issues, you know, some like more protein like meat, some like more protein like plants. So, you know, that's how I deal with it now. But I think in all cases, if you always just state exactly what's in your heart and what's in your mind at the moment, again, this is a form of freeing yourself. Because what will happen is if you hold it, resentment, you know, stores up, and then we have these headaches, these aches, these pains, and we don't even know where it came from. And then, you know, we get all these weird diagnoses because, believe it or not, all that stuff does build up over time and over years, and it's just better to just release your heart, you know.
Yeah. And honestly, like, you know, we sometimes, like you said, releasing your heart, sometimes if you don't ask, they don't know how to help, like, and they might not even, you know, so we have a lot of things that goes on in our mind, like we just assume and we imagine they're going to say no, or you're just acting it up, you know, different things. But have you asked? Like, have you even tried? Because I always believe that there's still a lot of amazing men out there, caring men out there that are ready to help people and, you know, their wives. And we can obviously, yes, there are some people that don't help, but then we can just imagine that, okay, this man is not going to help me. So asking is really important. And like you said, don't keep it in because resentment will come up. So I think that's really, really interesting. Yeah. So what I wanted to find out was like, what are the strategies women can use in order to immediately that we can use to get ourselves out there and start healing?
So, I mean, first of all, you have to commit to yourself. Say that, I want to, or I pledge to, right? To be of great service to myself. So you pledge to that, and then the next thing is you just take action on that, right? And so in order to take action, I have what I call the CALM technique. So C stands for collect information. So see what's going on with you, and journal about it. And when I eat certain foods, it makes me feel better. Or when I love cake at 10 o'clock at night. And emotionally, on an emotional level, it makes me feel good. But in the morning, oh my, my head, my stomach, my overall, everything is just like not working, right? So we've collected that information. And then maybe the next day you stop eating at 8 p.m. and you had a salad for dinner and you slept really, really well. And the next morning you're feeling just like Superwoman, and you're collecting this information, right? So you compare and contrast. The chocolate cake makes me feel good emotionally, but man, what a havoc it wreaks on my body. But that salad, don't feel too good emotionally, but it actually isn't too bad with a little bit of vinaigrette, right? And I feel like Superwoman the next day. Then you act on that, right? So you make a plan of action that will, allow whatever data you've collected you can actually implement, right?
Okay.
And you just start making, little changes at a time. And then the L now means linger. So you take pause with that, so try it, don't force it, just see, how it works little at a time. And the plan of action doesn't mean that you have to just be on, sometimes we find out a little bit of information and we just go on a marathon with it, don't do that. Just, have salad for dinner for like a couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe a couple of years, see how we're feeling, and then, bring it on down to the next meal, change up your snacks, add in some exercise, you know what I mean? Take it easy with yourself. And then the M in the CALM technique is to manifest, right? So whatever it is that you truly, truly want for yourself, through your actions, you will manifest it, because the things you focus on are the things that come to fruition.
Wow, that's beautiful. Something that I always thought about, because we've been talking about women and women, it's women having this problem and all that. Now, what if it's actually the partner that has the depression, or the partner has problem, worried? Like, how do women, how do we as women, try and help the other party? Because obviously, as women, we already have a lot of things we're doing. You've got the kids, you've got to tidy up the house, you've got to cook, you've got to do all that. And now you have to add on to helping your spouse with his own problems. Like how do you manage that?
So, actually, I think it was after our fourth child. Interestingly, again, our second son, he had the postpartum depression. And a lot of people don't realize that men get that, but he became very withdrawn emotionally and like in all the ways, except for he worked, like he would go to work and he would come home. And in that case, by then we had several children. So I just supported him as much as I could, by making sure that he's getting that wholesome food. I encouraged him to exercise. He wasn't interested. I have one of my friends, her husband is a personal trainer. Okay. So, we kind of like got them to know each other over time, not forced, Okay. In the meantime, on the back end, I was focusing on my relationship with the kids. Okay. And they were, of course, wondering why, Baba doesn't want to play with us, and why he's always at work, and how come he, doesn't talk, or, whatever. And I would just, say, sometimes adults, they don't, they have a lot of things on their mind, and it's not easy to express themselves. Focus on, being very compassionate and loving with them. And, of course, I upped my own self-nurturing practices because, you're now double parenting, right?
Yes, yes.
And you're now like pretty much like not in a real relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're more of a complete pillar for everybody on the outside. So this is kind of when I started getting massages.
Right.
And I mean, I have to say it helps. It's very helpful. I had first started out with using essential oils and doing self-massage on the points, like in my hand and my wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like acupressure points that you can use, like usually with your elbows, your wrists, your fingers. So I had started doing that, but it wasn't enough, but that's a start. And I think one of my free books actually has how to do it, but it's an Ayurvedic practice.
Mm-hmm.
The self massage with your fingers and using certain essential oils. So that's one way that's really, really helpful.
Mm. Well, what I can actually take from what you're saying, and I really, really love, is obviously there's so many things, but two things with, it's about, the first thing is in trying to make it seem positive to the children. So not saying, okay, well, your father doesn't want to play with you, or he's having his problems, trying to make the kids understand that, sometimes adults have that kind of problems, that they can't express themselves, and they're going through that process, which I think is really beautiful, because sometimes, because of the pressure women are going through, the way we handle situations, it's like it will cause more damage to the kids and to yourself in the long run. Another interesting one is to be able to find out that he's probably having, his own maybe depression as well, which, like you said, sometimes men, we don't see it in men. We don't even want to believe that they're human and they can have their own depression. Rather, we just think, yes, oh, it's just he doesn't love me anymore, or he's just he doesn't care. We just make assumptions. We don't try and think like, maybe this guy is actually going through something. So I think that is really interesting, and I really like that. If you don't mind me asking, like, how did you find out that he had that problem? Like did you was it because you had gone through that process before, so you kind of knew that, oh, when someone starts to behave like this, that means they're going through depression? Or did you sit down and ask him, like, what are you feeling? Or or did he himself actually go and get help? So how did you find out? Yeah.
So those are great questions. So it's pretty much all those things.
Oh,
so
okay.
with keep having children, right? I was at that time always researching about pregnancy, health, mental health, physical health, partner relationship, and the things that partners go through. And beginning with our fourth child, I had elected home birth. So I was really involved with like all the psychology and physiology behind birth, right? And the other part is, of course, I had a really strong system of self-nurturing for myself at that point. So it was really easy to reframe it and see that clear delineation of what's his and what's mine. Which is another point, to why you need to have a system of self-nurturing, because then you don't have those blurry lines of, oh, he just doesn't love me anymore. It's like, oh, that's his. That's not my stuff, right? So then the third point is, of course, having had postpartum depression. I know what it looks like. And having, like at that time, I was in the trenches of really researching, like I was actually considering becoming a midwife, right? So I was really researching about birth and understanding that men are affected by postpartum depression and the signs to look for. And like one of the major signs is, disconnection, intimate disconnection, not wanting to hold people, not wanting to talk, saying things that just don't make sense, right? That kind of like crazy talk a little bit. And I've actually interviewed a man now on my show who suffered from I guess he was British, so he calls it postnatal depression, So, and what was the other thing? And then, of course, he wasn't exercising because he, at that time, had a really long commute and he was driving a lot, long hours working. And so I knew that, when we got married, he was like super duper active, and he is the type of person, like we live in, a place that has 4 seasons, right? And he comes from Bangladesh where there's a lot of sun. So he needs to be outside, right? So all those things piling up, I recognized, okay, I've got to do something to get him out of his mind, out of his body, and outside. And I have to make it seem like it's his idea. Well, we all familiar with that one, right? So that's how I said, I decided to work with my friend, and I said, okay, let's come over and, we'll hang out or whatever. They'll get to know each other. And so, her husband was like, he loves what he does, right? So like, of course, in the conversation, it's like, oh, brother, you should come over and we should do this, we should do that. And so on the ride home, he's like, so that's a pretty nice brother. He was saying that we should hang out. He's a personal trainer. Did you know that? Oh, really? Okay.
Really? Yeah, that is really very good tips, though. And I really like the fact of the way and manner that you try to cajole him in doing all these things. Because sometimes we women, when we get like really we're very impatient, and you just think you better get up and just do your exercise or whatever, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. So that technique has really it's really good. So that's a lot of things to learn. There's so many gems that I can't wait to even start using them. And if there's any of our viewers that they want to work with you, or maybe they're going through this postnatal depression, or just trying to find out how they can exercise, eat well, natural herbal things, and also like the positive talk, the sweet talk. That's the one I love the most. Like how can they get in touch with you? Like how can they like where do they go? Do you have programs? Like just because I'm sure a lot of people will connect with what we're talking about, and just how do they get in touch with you?
Right. So there's 2 ways. If you're on Facebook, I have a Facebook group, which is called Chaos to Calm for Supermoms.
Oh, okay.
The number 4 Supermoms. And the other way is if you want to, work with me one-on-one or any of my programs, you can go to workoutaroundmyday.com.
Okay, so your website. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do is I'll put the links, in the comments section, so that people can actually see how to get in touch with you. But yeah, thank you again, and I do really appreciate it, and I really, really hope I'm going to have you on the show again really soon. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So guys, this is all I've got for you, and I hope this has helped, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed this show as much as I have done. Now it's your turn. Cordelia and I would love to hear from you. Would love to know what has been your biggest takeaway today. Please leave a comment below. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please share with your friends and families. Remember, having tranquility in your heart is the key ingredient to having a successful and a happy life. Thank you so much for watching, and God willing, I'll catch you in the next episode of Rashidah TV.
Coming home in the